Shonen. Probably the biggest market for anime and manga. Everyone has seen one. Don't lie. I know you have for a fact seen a shonen anime. Literally every fan has in one point in their lives, and it's inevitable. Like the sun rising or the protagonist yelling about their dream. I'm Jay, and I'd like to talk today about why I love shonen anime and why most people find it annoying as hell. So first, a brief introduction to shonen for those who might be unaware. Shonen is kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Big fights, maybe some jokes, and more importantly, it lasts forever. I mean, holy shit, have you seen how long they have Marvel movies planned for? God, not that I'm complaining, I love comics, but still, that's a lot of movies. Shonen is different in a few key different ways though. The first being, of course, that they're usually episodic, either via manga chapters or actual television episodes, and the protagonist is usually around 12 years old. Sometimes it can be older or even younger depending on the show, but middle school is usually the age range they shoot for. It's because they're targeted to middle school to high school kids, so they make a show that reflects the audience age, give them something that they can relate to. Because everybody can relate to being 12 foot tall and being able to punch through walls and having galaxy level powers. Everybody can relate to that, right? In fact, shonen actually means youth or boys, so it's literally boys or youth manga/anime, so that's literally what it's made for. Because a large demographic that watches anime is in that age range, shonen has kind of become the de facto leader of the scene. And that brings us to why there's such a large faction of fans that dislike the genre as a whole. It kind of gets shoved down their throats year after year, and it always dominates the conversation. Seriously, try to find some merch of any given seasonal show compared to a popular shonen. You'll notice there is a staggering lopsided result. So when there are so many fans of one thing, they can kind of dominate the other fans who think their show is better, or at least think that more people should give their show a shot, So if you're like, hey man, you should really check out this new show, it's really cool, I like the characters, and they're just like, nah man, what's that little show? I only watch the big shows like Jujutsu Kaisen, or whatever the flavor of the month is this month. I'm not saying that those shows aren't good, I'm just saying they're kind of the one that everybody recommends. It was Demon Slayer, it was before that, ReZero, there's one that usually dominates the conversation. Liking shonen is almost synonymous with being a normie or a casual. Elitist fans will likely toss around phrases like, oh, you still watch that show? You haven't seen any good shows, so of course you like that one. Now, I'm a personal believer in doing whatever the hell you want as long as it makes you happy. You want to watch My Hero? Cool, man, I like it. You want to watch Your Lie in April? Sweet dog, let me get some tissues. You want to watch Boruto? Get out. So let's go over some of the main critiques of the genre, which I think are totally valid for the most part. So first off, every protagonist is the same or similar to the point where it becomes kind of hard to get invested into a new series. And this is fair. I mean, how many times have we seen a cheerful, dumb, but well-meaning teenager yell about their dream before we start to see a connection between them? Not many times, apparently. However, I usually like the protagonist because I love seeing them finally accomplish their dreams. Unless you're watching One Piece, because we all know that show will never end. So I totally get why people find it annoying, especially when most protagonists scream or cry through half of the runtime. Okay, so now on to number 2. The plots are too similar or predictable. Now this one I'm not sure is a direct critique of shonen, but more to entertainment in general, since most stories follow along the hero's journey, but this one also makes sense. It's pretty hard to make new content in a genre where these huge shows already exist, spanning hundreds of episodes and covering a lot of plot lines. So sometimes you get a show that treads new ground with some interesting ideas, and I think a great example of that is maybe Attack on Titan, where they started killing off characters that were pretty important early on, which most shows tend to not do. And to compensate for that, you get another rival plot line, or a hero turning villains into allies, or, something along those lines. It's just one of those tropes that you kind of have to deal with, and I know it definitely gets older the more you watch. Your first show you probably won't notice at all, but as time goes by and you watch more shows, you'll see the writing on the walls. Anyways, now on to number 3, which I think is going to be the last point, and that being the dreaded filler. filler episodes suck, except for that Kakashi mask episode. That one is good. You cannot convince me that the Kakashi filler mask is bad. That is a national treasure, and you will respect it. Filler is an unfortunate byproduct of the old standards of broadcasting and manga production. The anime would catch up to the source material, and then they'd have to put in some filler to make sure the manga had enough time to produce, actual story content. And so you'd have these wild stories coming out of nowhere where you don't want to watch them, but they just happen. And sometimes shows would even make a new ending, an alternate ending for the series, because they were almost caught up to the manga, or they caught up to the manga at the very end of the show, so they just made a new, completely non-canon ending. I'm looking at you, Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood. If you've ever been confused as why there's 2 series, it's because one of the endings is technically anime only. Anyways, it's so annoying. Imagine this. You're watching the war arc in Naruto, and all of a sudden, you watch filler episodes for something like 20 episodes in a row, and when that airs weekly, that is 20 weeks of filler episodes, and then you hop back to the stuff you actually want to watch, and it picks up exactly where it left off 20 episodes previous. It's just jarring, and it is terrible to watch. Now, this is mostly solved these days with the introductions of season and taking off time. Looking at you, Black Clover. Oh, and don't even get me started on flashbacks. Looking at the tree swing this time. God, you got more screen time than 10-10 swing. So I do understand how going back and watching shows like Dragon Ball and Naruto can be daunting because of this. Obviously, skipping is a tactic, but it really sucks and it kills it for a lot of people. You're watching and all of a sudden you have to look up an anime filler guide and, skip episode 11 to 15, but then watch 16 and then skip 17 to 35, like whatever. It's annoying. Nobody likes doing it. But it's kind of one of the unfortunate things when you want to watch a story start to finish and you don't want to have to take random breaks, because the show can already do that. The manga can already take breaks for pacing reasons, and so getting those breaks on top of the filler breaks, it just gets too hard to watch sometimes. Oh, wait, there's actually a number 4, but it relates to number 3 really well, and that one is episode count. I think that half the reason episode count goes up so high for older shows is because of filler. But I understand how episode count affects watching a show. You look at this Everest of episodes, and yeah, sure, the peak is probably a great view, but you can also just go and climb that hill over there and get a pretty great view as well. And the other hill obviously being like 12 to 24 episode series, which some people can knock out in a night. Totally not one of those people. Totally. But now that the negatives are out of the way, let's talk about why I like shonen. A lot. I think there's something about the hundreds of episodes that makes the story feel more like a journey. Like, you watch so much of these characters that you grow to really like them. Some would call that Stockholm Syndrome. I would call it, enjoying arcs? Yeah, let's keep going. That feeling when you see that small child with no skills you saw in episode 1 become the strongest character, or, something near it, it just leaves you with such a sense of accomplishment. Like, how could you not smile when you saw Naruto wearing that Hokage cape, even if he was rocking that EE-ass haircut?
What is that?
If it's a good show, the time you invest into it gets rewarded back to you by the ending. You might be able to guess it right away, like from episode 1, and call it word for word, but as they say, it's not the destination, but the journey that you seek. Totally did not get that from a bumper sticker, but yeah, some of the most emotionally charged moments I've ever seen in a show have been hundreds of episodes into the show. So spoilers here, people, so watch at your own risk. You got One Piece, when they're standing at the top of the wall at Eni's lobby with Luffy yelling out to Robin, "Holy shit." Vegeta saying goodbye to Trunks, Itachi saying goodbye to Sasuke. These moments will hit you right in the stomach. Seriously, out of context, they might be sad on their own, but after you watch all the episodes before them, that hits you harder way more than you would expect. The writing might be formulaic, and, you could see it coming from a mile away, but seeing a train coming from a mile away doesn't really make it hurt any less. And it doesn't even need to be that long of a show to get these shonen moments. When Simone stands on top of Gurren Lagann as an adult, that was the best. I'm not saying it's impossible to get these feelings from other shows, I just think that they do exist in shonen, and they've always hit me right in the feel, so I think we need to kind of credit them for what they are. So this next point is more of a situational reason, but it's what got me into anime personally. Dragon Ball Z is one of the first, if not the very first anime I saw. It's between that and Pokemon. If you want to get technical, Power Rangers, that was likely the first Japanese entertainment show, and I know they used American cast, but in Mighty Morphin, it was using Japanese footage, and that's getting into the weeds. And I think it's that way for a lot of fans. They saw Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, even Inuyasha on, what was it, Toonami? And it was similar enough to action cartoons in America that the transition was much easier. And I can tell you right now, if a show I love now, like Konosuba or something, was my first show, there's a decent chance I would have dropped it right away and I would have never looked back. I needed a shonen show to open the doors to me, and I think it's that way for a lot of fans out there. They watch a show and they finish it and they really love it, and suddenly a more knowledge friend or, forum post says, hey man, check out this show. And down the rabbit hole you go. So I have to give credit where credit is due. These shows were highly influential and nostalgic for me, and that's part of the reason I love them so much. Not everything you watch needs to be super thought out or provoking or beautiful. Sometimes you just want to watch a kid yell about how great he's going to be one day and proceed to beat the shit out of some ugly looking guy or something. I don't know. But seriously, I think there's a huge focus on what's seen as good or bad, and we forget just to have fun with it. I mean, we're literally watching a TV show here, and everyone has their own tastes, and that's cool. Not everyone's favorite will be your favorite, and vice versa. I think the most important thing is just to have fun, and instead of looking down on another seasonal shonen, maybe try to recommend a show that you like to the viewers that you know, or, viewers in the comments, whatever. And yeah, they might say no, and they might not watch it, and live the rest of their lives only liking that one show, but maybe you might actually introduce them to something that's super cool, and they get really into it, and that's a great feeling. So I just hope that we can do more of that. That's essentially what it boils down to. So anime, it's not for everybody, and not every show's for everybody, but you gotta like what you gotta like. I like shonen, and that's pretty much it for the video. I know it's not really a hot take or anything, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that little rant. I don't know what to call it, a rant. I don't know if I made a point. I just talked about shonen anime for a little bit. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying to the end of the video. I'll try to recommend shows at the end of every single one of my videos. Any one of the shows that I mentioned in this episode is probably a good watch. But to recommend to shows that aren't in this video, I would say definitely check out Mob Psycho, which is more comedy, but if you like funnier shows, that one's really good. It has some really awesome action scenes. And then also Soul Eater. It can be a little visually jarring at times, but I think it's a really good watch. And then, of course, you can watch like the Demon Slayers, Jujutsu Kaisen, but those ones are the big ones. I'm trying to recommend ones that were either big a while ago or just some of my personal favorites. But yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. I've been Jay, and I'll hopefully see you next time.